The Law of One, Session 13. In this session, they speak about creation and the first four densities. The questioner asks, can you tell me of the first known thing in creation? Ra, the first known thing in creation is infinity. The infinity is creation. The questioner, what was the next step or the next evolvement? Ra, infinity became aware. Questioner, and then? Ra, awareness led to the focus of infinity into infinite energy, otherwise known as the Logos or love. The Creator is the focus of infinity, into a conscious principle that we call intelligent infinity. The questioner, what's next? Ra, the next step is still developing. This step is an endless reaction to the creative principle, following the law of one and its primary distortion, which is free will. Therefore, many dimensions, infinite in number, are possible. Energy moves from intelligent infinity due to an initial burst of creative force, which is random. This creates patterns that, like a hologram, represent the entire creation regardless of where or how the energy is explored. This makes me think of how the whole universe can be found in a cell. How, when you explore deeply enough into your being, the whole universe can be found there. These energy patterns start to organize themselves into local rhythms and fields, creating dimensions and universes. And then the questioner, how was the galaxy and this planetary system formed? And then Ra says, you've made a great leap forward here into the physical, as the universes, as you call them, were not yet born. But he goes on to answer. He says, initially, there were only intelligent energy patterns. They became so organized and individualized that they transformed into co-creators, leading to the creation of physical matter. Light is the first form of intelligent infinity and the building block of matter. The light of love was made to have in its occurrences of being certain characteristics, and among those characteristics, the infinite whole, paradoxically described by the straight line. I struggled a little bit with this, with trying to understand or imagine this, but maybe it is beyond imagination. But it made me think about sacred geometry. Let me continue reading this. The paradox is responsible for the shape of physical solar systems, galaxies, and planets, all revolving and tending towards a lenticular or lens-like shape or form. So I wondered, is this... I just put sacred geometry here. It came up again a little later in the session, but not from Ra, of course. It was just in my searching and trying to understand. But it's not very direct, but I'll just plant that there. And if you have a thought, you're welcome to share it in the box. And then the questioner, could you fill the gap between your two previous answers? What is the next step after your previous question? And then Ra says the steps are simultaneous and infinite. The questioner, how did intelligent infinity become individualized from itself? Ra, intelligent infinity discerned a concept. This concept was discerned due to freedom of will of awareness. This concept was finity. This was the first and primal paradox or distortion of the law of one. So the one intelligent infinity invested itself in an exploration of the manyness. So basically, it started as one intelligent infinity, and then it decided that it was going to apply this free will thing and create finity or limitation. And then it explored the manyness within that. Because of my short notes, because of the infinite possibilities of intelligent infinity, there is no ending to manyness. The exploration thus continues infinitely into an eternal present, or an eternal now. So it goes on and on and on in the present moment. The questioner: was our galaxy created by intelligent infinity or by a portion of the individualized intelligent infinity? And Ra says that all things that you are aware of are created by individualized portions of intelligent infinity. As each exploration began, it found its focus and became co-creator. Each portion created a universe using intelligent infinity, allowing free choice to flow. And then each portion then channeled the love light into intelligent energy, thus creating the natural laws of each universe. I find this quite fascinating. Natural laws are a combination of this energy along with love. Each universe then individualized to a focus, becoming a co-creator and allowing further diversity, thus creating further intelligent energies, causing natural laws to appear in the vibrational pattern of a solar system. And each solar system has its own mini set of natural laws. Even this I found quite fascinating, because somehow I thought natural law applies throughout this universe, like the same natural law. I didn't realize or understand or remember this information from when I'd listened to it before, that natural law can shift within the same universe. And then it should be stated that anything, no matter how small, contains the one creator, which is infinity. The questioner: how was our planetary system created? What was the order? Ra says the process is from larger to smaller, from the galaxy as spiraling energy to the solar as spiraling energy to the planetary spiraling energy to the experiential circumstances of spiraling energy, which begin the first density of awareness or consciousness of planetary entities. So the questioner: could you tell me about the first density of planetary entities? And Ra says each step reiterates the intelligent infinity in its discovery of awareness. So basically, whatever thing becomes aware separately, intelligent infinity is still present in that. In a planetary environment, all begins in chaos, which is basically energy that is undirected and random. And slowly, there forms a focus of self-awareness. So this awareness, he says slowly, in our linear time, basically. Self-awareness begins to form, and so the Logos moves. Love moves. Light forms the darkness according to the co-creator's patterns and vibratory rhythms, and so constructs a certain type of experience. And so whatever the co-creator is deciding to do is what will be created. Whatever that self-awareness is deciding to do, whatever patterns and vibratory rhythms it decides to make, is what's going to construct that experience or that thing. The first density is the density of consciousness, the mineral and water upon the planet, learning from fire and wind, which is basically has the awareness of being. This came up in a much earlier session where I'd asked a question about what is this fire and this wind that is coming down from intelligent infinity through spirit into the physical, that I couldn't understand the significance of it. And there were a few interesting responses. But as he speaks of it here, I guess that's what differentiates water and earth from fire and wind, is that fire and wind have awareness of being, whereas water and earth do not yet. And so water and earth are learning from fire and wind to have this awareness of being. So that's interesting, and not something that I would have guessed or anticipated. Then the questioner. Does the first density progress to greater awareness? And Ra says the spiraling energy, which is light, moves in a straight line spiral, and then that starts to move upward. And that first dimensional beingness strives toward the second density lessons, which include growth rather than dissolution or random change. So the way that I understood this was that this spiraling can be a one-dimensional thing, but the moving of it upward is what creates another dimension, and also is what moves it into second density consciousness. And that once it reaches second density consciousness, it basically now wants to grow. It wants to learn things and experience things with purpose and intention, and not just go through random change anymore that it doesn't have a say in. Then the questioner, what do you mean by growth? And Ra says, picture the difference between first vibrational mineral or water life and the lower second density beings that move on or in the water. The movement of these beings is the characteristic of the second density, which is the striving toward light and growth. The questioner, what do you mean by striving towards light? Ra says, imagine simplistically the leaf striving toward the source of light. So he was just giving an analogy. And then the questioner, is there any physical difference between the first and the second density? For example, if I put a first density and a second density planet side by side, would I be able to see both of them? Ra says, correct. All octaves of the densities would be clearly visible if the fourth to the seventh density didn't freely choose not to be. Did not realize that either. This is, I think, maybe the most fascinating discovery in this session for me, is I really was under the impression that fourth to seventh density was just not a vibrational match to be able to be visible to the first to the fourth, first to the third. But it seems that is not the case, that all could be visible and all would be visible if the fourth to the seventh density decided to make it so. Maybe that is also how higher density beings make themselves visibly known to humans. Throwing ideas out there. And then the question, how does the second density progress to the third? Ra says the second density strives toward the third, which is the density of self-consciousness and self-awareness. This happens through higher second density forms who have kind of been given an identity by third density beings, to the point that the second density being becomes self-aware. And the best example I can think of is pets. They get given a name by us, and they realize that when you call that name, you are speaking to them. And so they are separate from the other. And this helps them to realize themselves as individual, and to become self-aware. And then he goes on to say that they begin to enter third density at this point, and that this is also the first density level of consciousness of spirit. Didn't know that either. You know, even though listening to these books so many times, it's still, there is so much missed. And I imagine if I go through this again, you know, even from the first session, at this point, there will probably be even more that was missed as recently as 3 weeks ago. It's a lot of stuff to remember, but I guess you just kind of take the things that resonate and that stick now and come back to it again a little later. and come back to it again and again and again. The questioner, what is Earth's density level at this time? Ra, Earth is third density in its beingness of mind-body-spirit complex, but it's fourth density in the space-time continuum. And that basically this is what causes difficulty in harvest, or for harvest, or during harvest, is our humans are in a third density mind or consciousness, and the planet is in a fourth density. The questioner, how does the third density planet become a fourth density planet? Ra says this is the last question. The fourth density is very regular and predictable in its approach. Currently, your solar system has moved into a new vibrational state, which allows Earth to change and adapt to these new energies. But the thoughts and behaviors of the people are scattered, they're not unified. And so it is difficult for individuals and for society to align with the new vibration of love and understanding, which is the fourth density. So many will have to repeat the previous level, despite the efforts of advanced souls, teachers, and spiritual beings trying to help them to move along and to graduate, I guess. So that ends the third, not the third session, the 13th session. This one felt like it went really quickly, but there was also a lot in here that, the densities, I've been waiting to get to this point for Ra to break them down again, because I also needed a little bit of a reminder. First, second, and third density, I think, are pretty straightforward. It was those beyond, fourth, fifth, sixth. So I guess we'll see in the next session what he has to say about those. But yeah, wishing you guys a really awesome evening, and I guess, or really awesome morning if you're in South Africa. I guess I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.